So nutrigenomics, I have briefly just touched upon these two terminologies, nutrigenetics and nutrigenomics, in the first class of recommended dietary allowance, etc. Okay, so I guess you may not remember it. We were just briefly touching about on these topics. So nutrigenetics and nutrigenomics, it sounds very similar, and you may get confused with these two genet- uh, genetic terminology. Okay, so I'll just give a brief explanation on these two words, how to differentiate it. Okay, so tomorrow, if at all you come across a question on this particular terminology, you may be able to identify, okay, which is what. So nutrigenetics is how your genes affect your bodies, and how your genes affect the metabolism and absorption of certain food. Okay, nutrigenetics is very specific. You can answer this question. Just imagine a person who is having any genetic disorder, okay, especially some inherited digestive genetic disorder. Okay, and there is a other healthy individual not affected by any digestive genetic disorders. Okay, will both of these two individuals, the person with a digestive genetic disorder and the one who is healthy, okay, will their body respond in the same way to different kinds of food? Can anyone answer in the chat box? A person who is having a genetic disorder, specifically digestive genetic disorder, okay, digestive genetic disorder, and a person who is healthy, okay, a healthy person and a person who is having a genetic digestive disorder, will their body respond to digestion and metabolism in the same way, the absorption of food in the same way? No, right? It will not, depending upon what kind of genetic disorder they have, their genes, okay, the damaged genes, the damaged DNA will interfere with the digestion, metabolism, absorption, and sometimes storage also of certain nutrients. Okay, so that is nutrigenetics. It is quite specific. Okay, it's the differentiation between the person who is healthy, how their body responds, and the person who is affected by certain genetic disorders, how their body responds to especially food. Okay, nutrigenomics means it's the relationship between nutrition, nutrients, and the genes. Okay, that is something more specific. But nutrigenomics, okay, uh, just imagine two healthy individual or a group of healthy individual, but they are exposed to food containing a lot of food that was overly food that was grown in a land in which they used chemical fertilizers a lot. Okay, so will this situation affect the genetic function, the genetic makeup of the entire group, entire healthy group? Okay, for example, there's a group of 10 healthy individual. Okay, all 10 of them were fed with food, vegetables, fruits, or whatever kind of food that was grown in a land. Okay, that was grown in a land which was overly utilizing chemical fertilizers. We all know how chemical fertilizers affect the genetics. Okay, so is this entire healthy population at the risk of getting genetic defects? Yes, it does. So that is nutrigenomics. What you eat, okay, even if you're healthy, you started as a healthy individual without any inherited genetic disorder. You started as a healthy individual, but certain external factors, especially relating to food, okay, certain that external factors will affect your healthy genes. That is nutrigenomics. Okay, so I guess now you understand what's the difference between nutrigenetics and nutrigenomics. Okay, in nutrigenetics, generally you may be having a specific gene, okay, which is not adequate enough to respond to certain food. But in nutrigenomics, you have all the basic healthy genes for all the metabolism and absorption required by the nutrients, but certain external factors can interrupt that, can cause any mutation in your genes. So that is nutrigenomics. This is the two basic difference between nutrigenetics and nutrigenomics. Okay, genomics itself means the study of the entire DNA. Okay, just understand that. In the last class, I have asked some of you to read about genome, phenotype, genotype, okay, certain genetic terminology, but by then most of the students had logged out of the session, so I guess the information was incomplete to all. So I'll explain all the terminologies in this class. Okay, so genomics, okay, just the name genomics, it refers to the entire set of genetic material, DNA, RNA, everything. Okay, you are studying about that. Okay, it is usually a healthy set of entire genome which you are studying, and you want to see how different factors may affect this particular genome or this particular DNA. So that is nutrigenomics. Okay, you start off with a healthy set of genome, and you want to see how different risk factors may affect. Okay, so whatever responses you get, whatever results you get from nutrigenomics can be published as a general health guidance. Okay, nutrigenetics is more specific, it is more disease related, what kind of genetic disorder. Okay, that's the relation in nutrigenetics. So now the next topic is on page number 479, principles of nutrigenomics. Okay, there are just read through that, no need to by heart these five principles, five statements are given, no need to by heart it, just understand it, that is more than enough. So gene expression can occur directly or indirectly. For example, certain nutrients, okay, there are we'll talk about that, there are certain nutrients like some byproduct products after metabolism. When vitamin A, vitamin D gets metabolized, there are certain byproducts that will be remaining that can be toxic. Okay, these toxic byproducts can either directly uh, affect your DNA, or it can indirectly cause any negative effects. Okay, it cannot directly affect the DNA, but it may trigger some reactions in your body, certain inflammation in your body, and that inflammation can lead to certain mutation. Okay, so so the nutrients causing gene expression, it can be either direct or indirect, depending upon what kind of nutrient it is. Okay, and what kind of reaction it is giving, like zinc. Okay, fatty acids. That is why we say deficiency as well as toxicity is hazardous to the health of an individual. Okay, the most common thing when we talk about nutrition and dietetics and everything is deficiency, but it is not just deficiency, we have to take care of the toxicity levels also. Okay, that can cause this kind of mutations to take place. Okay, then we have diet. For certain diseases, okay, that risk factor is there already, diet will have a risk factor. For example, grandparents from both the side, maternal grandparents as well as paternal grandparents are diabetic. Okay, one of the parent is also diabetic. Will this put an additional risk on the children who are in this generation? Okay, a child, just take a child, irrespective of the gender. Okay, a child, both the set of their grandparents, maternal and paternal, both grandparents are diabetic. Okay, uh, among their parents, mother and father, father is diabetic, mother is not yet diabetic. Okay, but she also has the risk factor to it. How will be the health of this child? Okay, what will be the genetic makeup of this child? Will this child will also be at the risk of getting diabetes soon if not controlled, if external factors are not controlled? What do you think? Yes, yeah, that is true. That is what the already the genetic makeup that is already present, that will affect a lot on your diet. And this is very common talk in our household. Okay, we always say that, see, your grandparents are diabetic, your grandparents have high cholesterol, it's better you control yourself from now itself. Okay, because you may be diabetic at the age of 30, so control your diet from now itself. So that is how, when we know our genetic makeup, it affects our day-to-day lifestyle. Okay, so that is how diet influences nutrigenomics. Then chronic disease onset. So there are certain variants which we see, nutritional variants, which starts off as a deficiency, and the signs and symptoms in the initial stage you miss out, you do not act on the signs and symptoms in the initial stage. and you do not try to correct your deficiency. And what happens after few years or for few months, this acute signs and symptoms will turn into a chronic disease. Okay, so that's another principle, to keep a eye out for the signs and symptoms, especially related to certain deficiency of nutrition, and correct it then and there itself, and don't wait for a chronic disease to take place in the later part of the life. Okay, then you have genetic makeup. It depends upon family to family. Okay, the influence of diet on health and disease is likely to be affected by the genetic makeup, what we have just now discussed. The family has a history of diabetes, cholesterol, okay, high blood pressure. Okay, in that cases what happens is the generation, the upcoming generation will also be born with that kind of risk. Okay, that kind of mutated gene. So that is genetic makeup. Then you have nutritional intervention. Intervention means treatment what we can give, okay, based on an individual's nutritional status. For example, what kind of deficiency the person has, genotype, what is their genetic makeup. Okay, genotype you can identify using the pedigree chart, etc. And current health status, are they healthy as of now or not. Okay, and then nutritional requirements, if you know the nutritional status, you can understand the nutritional requirement. For example, a female whose nutritional status, you have done the blood work and you got the nutritional status through the blood work, she is vitamin B deficient, vitamin D deficient, iron deficient. So now you know the nutritional status of a person. Okay, undernourished, and she has so many deficiency. So you will try to intervene, you will try to correct those deficiencies by giving nutritional supplements, or asking her or giving her health education regarding modification of her diet plan, etc. Okay, so that is nutritional intervention. You have to know the nutritional status of the person, what is their family history in regarding to this particular disease which is coming across, and then what is the current health status. If the woman is pregnant, not pregnant, okay, that will also affect these interventions. And then nutritional requirement, based on the disease condition which you have diagnosed for a person, you have to make a diet plan accordingly. So these are the 5 principles of nutrigenomics. No need to by heart it, just if the concept is clear for each of these statements, it's more than enough. Then we'll see about the interactions. Direct interaction. So this is a little bit technical. Okay, I have placed few images. With that, it is much more easier for you to understand. So DNA and RNA means, DNA, there is a double helix structure. Okay, there are 2 strands in a helical structure, and RNA means a single strand. When 2 RNAs combine, they form a DNA. Okay, this is one of your tasks. You can note it down. The difference between DNA and RNA, please find it out. Not just structurally, but just few points you can find it out, and you can post your answers in my WhatsApp. Okay, those who do not have my WhatsApp number, at the end of the class I will be giving it. Please note this task. Okay, because if at all I explain all these things, some effort from your side will be missing. Okay, so this is a very complicated topic. That is why in this class itself I'm telling you to find out what is the basic difference. I don't want too much of technical details. Okay, because we do also have commerce students here. Okay, so the basic difference between DNA and RNA. In the chat box I have given the question. Please note this question, understand the concept of this question, and just get back to me in the WhatsApp. Or sometimes if we have time in the next class, we'll discuss briefly on that. Okay. So DNA, remember DNA has a 2 helical structures. Okay, and RNA is that single helical structure. When 2 RNAs combine, they form a DNA. Okay, so there is a transcription going on between DNA and RNA. Just imagine there is a message being passed from DNA to RNA using transcriptase enzymes, etc. That is too technical. Okay, so anything that interrupts this transcription, okay, anything that interrupts the sending and receiving of these messages, okay, that will lead to some genetic mutation. Okay, some kind of affected gene disorder. Just understand that concept. Okay, so this is a healthy situation going on here in this image. Okay, we need certain activators which we get from nutrients and other body reactions. There are certain activators released, they bind with the DNA and they will give a healthy gene. Okay, the gene expression will be healthy. But if there is a repressing agent means some toxin, some environmental toxin or some external toxin or anything that can cause some disordered gene expression. Okay, so that's what we call it as repressor. Okay, repressor is something that can negatively affect the DNA structure. Okay, so when repressor gets bound on the DNA binding site, this transcription will not take place. Okay, so here you can see all the activators and RNA polymerase, everything came together to form a target gene. But when there is an inhibitor, this red the red circle which has been uh, which is stuck onto the DNA, what happens? The DNA, RNA polymerase, everything cannot come together. So there is no transcription taking place. There is no exchange of messages between the DNA and RNA. So what happens? The target gene cannot be formed. So that's when you get a genetic disorder. Okay, so that this is how, and especially when we talk about nutrigenomics, these repressors are certain nutrients. Okay, like zinc, some metabolites. Metabolites means the byproducts of the vitamin A metabolism, vitamin D metabolism, fatty acid metabolism. Okay, certain minerals. Okay, excessive copper, etc. Okay, these can lead to this kind of effect in the body. So that is direct interaction. Direct means directly this toxin is affecting the DNA. Then we have epigenetic. Okay, epigenetic, just write down somewhere if you want. It is how your behavior or your lifestyle or your environment can cause changes. Okay, can any your behavior, your lifestyle, your environment can cause changes in the way how your genes work. That is what we call it as epigenetic. Okay, from this image here you can make a understanding of it. Physical activity, where you stay. Okay, is your environment quite polluted? Are you getting any access deficiency? Okay, toxicity, or ingesting any toxins apart from nutrients? If you are ingesting any toxins, okay, these can cause such kind of repressing reactions. Okay, yeah. So epigenetics, from this image, if it is clear, you can see how your different lifestyle. Okay, if it is moderate lifestyle or sedentary lifestyle, active lifestyle, what kind of food you eat? Is it healthy, unhealthy, junk food? What kind of TV lights, UV radiations, etc. you are exposed to? Okay, what kind of environment you are living in? Is it polluted or not polluted? Okay, these are the factors which will have an interaction with the different kinds of diseases which you already have, or the disease which you are going to have in the future. Okay, so that is what we call it as epigenetics. The basic principle of epigenetics is these all factors which we are discussing here have a role to play with your genetic makeup. Okay, even if you are a healthy individual but you are affected a lot by external pollutants, it can affect the way how your life will turn on from now on. Okay, then you have genetic variation, that is as simple as uh, no two human beings have the same genetic makeup. Okay, for siblings, okay, there are some identical twins, there are certain criteria, but when there are two parents, the parents have two kids, okay, with some age gap, there are certain changes in these siblings genetic makeup also. That is quite common. That is the nature of how things are supposed to be. So that is natural genetic variation. If both the parents have some recessive trait in their genetics and they are not aware of it, okay, their child can be born with this particular autosomal recessive genetic disorder. Okay, so these are the different types of gene variations which we can see. We do not have much control over it. Okay, these things can be diagnosed when the child is still in the womb. Okay, through ultrasonography, etc. Certain genetical disorders can be diagnosed, but in that also we still have certain limitations. Okay, this is how various interactions of nutrient and a person's gene can take place. Then we have genotype and phenotype. So just understand the basic meaning of genotype. Genotype means the structure of your DNA and RNA. Okay, that is very technical. Genotype means what is your genetic makeup. Okay, your DNA and RNA. Okay, it's on the paper, it's on the reports and everything. But phenotype means what you can see. Like for example, you can identify a child who is having Down syndrome from other healthy children. Okay, because there is a certain genetic makeup that can be seen. Okay, the way how their face is formed, it's a moon shaped face, how their eyes is placed in the orbital cavity. Okay, the shape of their eyes, the tongue. Okay, they have swallowing difficulties. Okay, the way how they react to things. Okay, that is what we call it as phenotype, the physical characteristics which can be exactly seen. Okay, which you can see with your eyes either physically, or you can see the phenotype on a report. Okay, any blood report or any kind of reports, this can be seen. So page number 481 in the recent edition which I have. Okay, so that is a basic difference between genotype and phenotype. So there are few terminologies here on page number 481. Those like genomics, proteomics, metabolomics, transcriptomics. You just have to understand that a detail of all these genomics, proteomics is given from page number 482 to 484. No need to read that. If you want to increase your knowledge about these things, you can go through that. But for exam point of view, just understand the terminology of it. Okay, of genomics, transcriptomics, proteomics, and metabolomics. I mentioned these terminologies in this image which I have used here. Okay, so genomics basically it is the study of your genome. Okay, that stores the information in the cell, even from the cell, even with your saliva, even with a strand of your hair. Okay, even with a strand of the hair which is grown on your skin. Okay, your body hairs. With that, even in that single follicle also, your entire genetic makeup can be coded. Okay, so that is genomics, the study of the entire genome, your RNA structure, DNA structure. Okay, this can give the details of who your parents are, who your biological parents are. Okay, to identify your biological family members, how your relation among your biological family. Okay, the genome forms the basis of all these things. Okay, then you have proteomics. It is the study of about how protein molecules, especially the byproduct of the protein molecules, after breaking down. Okay, after digestion and absorption, how these amino acids in the proteins are going to affect your DNA structure. Okay, so that study is what we call it as proteomics. Okay, always remember, whenever there is a terminology with omics, omics. Okay, you suffix, like you have prefix and suffix. So when you suffix this omics behind any particular terminology, it means the study of the genome in relation to that. Okay, then you have transcriptomics. Transcriptomics is the genetic terminology, like transcription factors, etc. Transcription factors are something that helps the DNA to send message to the RNA, helps the RNA to send message to the DNA. If at all there is an external factor which is binding with the DNA or the RNA, this transcriptase will not function. Okay, that is when gene expression cannot take place, or there is a negative gene expression. Okay, so that is the study of transcription factors affecting the uh, genotype. Okay, so remember that that is a new word for you, transcription factors. You can Google, if you want to learn more, you can just Google it, transcription factors. Okay, Things on page number 481. Okay, that is enough. 481, under the tools of nutrigenomics, you have 4 terminologies: genomics, transcriptomics, proteomics, and metabolomics. Understand the meaning, the statement, what they have given in that page, that is enough. In detail, the detailed version of each of this terminology is given from 482 to 484. You just have to read it. No need to learn. It's for exam purpose, it is not important. Okay, for exam purpose, what is important, it is on page number 481, those 4 terminologies and the statement. Okay, so the study about these different transcription factors. Transcription factors are the ones which will help the transfer of message between DNA and RNA. Okay, if there is an external toxin attached to the DNA RNA, transcription factors will not work. Okay, so when we study about this particular area, it is called as transcriptomics. Okay, and then proteomics, how protein molecules affect the genome. Metabolomics, that is what I have said, metabolites. Okay, metabolites of vitamin A, vitamin B, D, whatever different nutrients, minerals like zinc, copper. Okay, when they are metabolized in the body, what is left behind, those things can be toxic to the genome. Okay, it has to be adequately filtered out of the body. If not, it can stay back in the body and cause some genetic expression which is not required. Okay, so that is metabolomics, how different metabolites will affect your genome. So these things are a little bit technical, just understand the word meaning of it. If you want to take any information out of this particular slide, remember this suffix called OMICS. You can see omics everywhere behind this for terminology. That means the study of how nutrients will affect the genome in this particular area. So now you have bioactive components of food, that is on page number 484, last few lines, and there is the same kind of images given in the textbook. So bioactive compounds is something like antioxidants. Examples of bioactive components are antioxidants, your omega-3 fatty acids, anything which you when you read about the anti-cancer, anti-carcinogenic nutrients. Okay, or we can call in a layman's language, we can call the food or the nutrients which will prevent cancer to an extent. Okay, anti-carcinogenic nutrients, they come under the bioactive components of food. Okay, when you read the entire nutrition science textbook, you will come across this certain nutrients which are anti-carcinogenics. Okay, from in the chat box, does anyone remember any discussion which we had on this? Anything that comes to your mind when we say anti-carcinogenic? This thing, if you have this thing in your diet, it can prevent cancer to an extent, any kind of cancer. Can you give any examples? Something in today's from the past 10 years or 5 years, this thing is very commonly we hear, even in marketing, in advertisements. This word has become a very integral part of the nutritional science, or anything related to nutrition, or even your cosmetics. This word has become so common. Yeah, it is related to free radicals, but free radicals are bad. The thing that can, yes, antioxidants. Okay, the food which are rich in antioxidants. Okay, dietary fibers. Okay, and fatty acids, omega-3, omega-6 fatty acids, both. Okay, these we consider them as anti-carcinogenic. To an extent, studies have shown that they prevent different types of cancer. For example, if you have a good dietary fiber rich food, okay, not too much but in a limitation, if you have dietary fiber rich food, what kind of cancers you can prevent? In the chat box we have discussed on this part 2 of carbohydrates, about dietary fiber, what kind of cancers you can prevent with the intake of, yeah, colon cancer, any cancer that is related to your intestine, GI tract. Yes, so dietary fiber is also a bioactive component. Okay, all the antioxidants. In tea we say it has flavonoids. Okay, like when you want to market green tea, not just green tea, all the tea leaves are rich in flavonoids. Okay, and coffees, they have other kind of, I don't remember the name. Then some kind of teas, they have tannins. Okay, when you read about the antioxidants part, there is an entire chapter on antioxidants. We will take that later. But even when we discussed about antioxidants in brief, there are certain examples given. Okay, all those things are bioactive components. Okay, so like flavonoids, carotenoids, for example, vitamin A derivatives. Okay, carotenoids, and then you have lignans, tannins, flavonoids, taurines. Okay, when you just read about the antioxidant chapter, we'll discuss that chapter in detail later. We will come across these bioactive components. But now just imagine, remember, bioactive components of food are something that can prevent certain negative genetic expressions, prevent cancer, okay, and prevent any chronic inflammatory diseases. Okay, so that is why these components are very much necessary in your day-to-day diet. Okay, so how does this bioactive components help? Okay, what they do so much that it is important from a nutrigenomics point of view. So it helps in a healthy cell growth. If your cell growth is unhealthy, it can lead to benign or malignant tumors. Okay, apoptosis. Apoptosis means your cell dies, or it's like a suicide of your cell. Okay, when every cell has lysosome, etc. Too technical. Just imagine every cell has a certain part. Okay, certain part inside them, and when it releases the active enzymes from that part, the entire cell dies off. Okay, so that is apoptosis. It is cell death or suicide of the cell. Just imagine that. That is easier to understand. So when does apoptosis take place? When there is an abnormal cell differentiation. Okay, when there are like new cancer cells forming in the initial stage, and the body recognizes it as a threat, and it will suggest the immune system to kill that cells off. Okay, so that's how apoptosis also take place. If you have a food that is rich in bioactive components, they can aid in this apoptosis of precancerous cells, repairing the DNA whenever the DNA has certain damage because of external toxic factors. Okay, a food that is rich in bioactive components will help in DNA repair. Inflammatory responses, any inflammation. Okay, any inflammation in the body, if it is dragged too long, it will lead to certain chronic diseases. Okay, so in the acute stage itself, we are treating any kind of inflammation from head to bottom. Any kind of inflammation, it is, if it is treated on the spot in the acute stage itself, it will prevent the chronic diseases. Okay, hormonal regulation, cell differentiation is very important from a carcinogenic point of view, from the cancer point of view. Okay, any abnormal cell differentiation means you may get benign tumor. Okay, and that can progressively lead to malignant if not treated. Then carcinogenesis, the same thing. Really, when as soon as the body detects cancer cells being formed, you can see here in this image, if it is clear. Okay, the cells that are in the center, the bluish colored cell, that is abnormal cell differentiation. Okay, the pink colored or peach colored cells on either side, that is the normal cell differentiation. So your body should be able to detect this abnormal cell differentiation and direct your immune system to start the apoptosis for this particular segment. Okay, so that if the body is not able to detect it, this will lead to a benign tumor, or some case it can lead to a malignant tumor. Okay, hormonal regulation also. If your food is not antioxidant rich, your glands, all your endocrine glands will not get the signal when to release what kind of hormones. Okay, cell differentiation, you grow. Okay, you grow, you put on weight, you lose weight. Okay, A to Z, from the top to bottom, your entire body undergoes cell differentiation. Because of cell differentiation, you grow. Okay, you from a infancy, you became a toddler and a child, teenager, now an adult. That is because of an optimum cell differentiation that took place with the support of hormonal regulation. Okay, that is how an adult is formed. Cell differentiation means one cell breaks off and forms other cells, and that's how the body grows. Okay, yeah, so that is how important bioactive components of food are. Basically, it is the antioxidants, omega-3 fatty acids, omega-6 fatty acids, okay, dietary fibers, anything that is anti-carcinogenic, we consider them as bioactive components. So we will discuss about this in detail when we talk about uh, the diet therapy for cancer. Okay, in that chapter we will discuss in detail. There is another chapter in the nutrition science textbook itself about antioxidants. So you will get a in-depth idea of that, how these antioxidants work, what is their mechanism of action, etc. We'll discuss that. A brief touch-up of this antioxidants and their function is given in the carbohydrate chapter, part 1. So now this same image is given on page number 486. It's a very simple image. It may look like carcinogen. I'll explain it later. You can just contact me personally. Okay, it's a brief topic. I'll teach that later again. Carcinogen means it's cancer causing. Okay, anything that is cancer causing. So just see this main arrow which is in the center, which starts from diet and leads to disease, and in some cases from disease it can lead to diet. Okay, so diet, it is the earliest marker of food bioactivity. For example, anything wrong in the diet, okay, if it is not corrected in the early stages, it can lead to a chronic disease. Okay, the disease part here in the central arrow, it is chronic disease. It is not acute, it is chronic. Okay, after um, uh, a disease that was dragged on for too long. Okay, chronic disease. So this is the acute stage, from the diet to the pivotal changes of gene expression. This is the acute stage. Whatever changes or whatever correction you want to uh, do here, okay, that will benefit you. That will prevent you from turning this acute disease into a chronic disease. Okay, so this is a very important stage, from diet to the pivotal changes in gene expression. Okay, so for example, iron deficiency. Okay, your diet was deficient in iron, or iron is a very tricky mineral, very difficult to absorb and keep stored in the body. Okay, so let's just take an example. Your diet was very much deficient in iron. Okay, um, earlier signs and symptom was the transferrin levels in your blood. Okay, the latest signs and symptoms are hemoglobin levels in the blood. Okay, these levels in the blood and lethargy. Okay, those who are anemic, they are very tired. Even with a small amount of activity, they get very tired. Their oxygen needs are not met. Okay, you see their eyes, their entire pallor, the skin color. Okay, it is very pale. With that, with such signs and symptoms, we can in this stage itself we can understand iron deficiency is going on. This is the correct stage to correct the iron deficiency. If it is not corrected, it can lead to certain, especially when a woman is pregnant, okay, and this iron deficiency is not corrected in the early stage of her pregnancy. Will it affect the child? In the chat box, can anyone say? Okay, so child may be, we can't say it will definitely, but in most of the cases the child will be born with certain iron absorption or digestion gene mutation disorder, will be born with certain such kind of disorders related to the mineral, the nutrient iron. Okay, so that's Yeah, the lady will have iron deficiency anemia, but also when the iron deficiency, when the mother is suffering from iron deficiency anemia, how it is going to be expressed in the fetus, we have very little control of. Okay, if the child is born with certain deficiencies or certain gene mutation because of mother's deficiency, that we cannot correct. Okay, so in that case we cannot do much. So that is a reduced scope of returning to the healthy state. So this is the highest scope. From diet to the pivotal changes, this is the highest scope, and this is why we say to make a note of signs and symptoms of different deficiencies. Okay, uh, even from exam point of view, from each chapter, deficiency and toxicity has certain signs and symptoms. Okay, that I do explain in the classes. Okay, so you have to be very vigilant to look out for the different signs and symptoms, especially the initial signs and symptoms, and to make corrections and nutritional interventions in this stage itself. Otherwise, it can lead to some abnormal gene expression, cellular dysfunction, and finally, disease. Okay, a disease from which going back to the previous healthy stage will not be that easy or will not happen. Okay, so that's it. That's the simplest explanation for this particular image which is given. Okay, next is the role of nutrigenomics in coronary heart disease. This is a very good example for understanding that understanding the thing that you consider yourself genetically lucky that your parents or your grandparents do not have any cardiovascular disease, doesn't mean that you will not catch up. Okay, so this is an example of an individual who has a low genetic risk of coronary artery disease. So what do you mean by low genetic risk of vascular disease? Anyone in the chat box, in your own words? A person has a low genetic risk of getting any cardiovascular disease. No, not low chance of genetic diseases. Yeah, history of no cardiac diseases in the family. Okay, so that is a terminology which you have to understand. The person who has history of cardiac diseases or any diseases for that matter in their family will come under the high genetic risk of a cardiovascular disease. And this is a person who doesn't have a family member who had a past history of cardiovascular diseases. Okay, or yeah, recessive genes related to the cardiac issues. And but if this individual is having a healthy lifestyle, obviously he or she will never have a cardiovascular disease. So this image given at the last, that is just a cross section of an artery to show you how uh, plaque can form within the artery. Okay, that is the accumulation of cholesterol and how it reduces the blood supply. So, but even with a low genetic risk of cardiovascular diseases, with poor lifestyle, okay, they have a lot of junk food. They are not exercising. Okay, their diet is uncontrollably high in fat and carbohydrates. Even if they do not have a family member with cardiovascular diseases, they can develop cardiovascular diseases. Okay, so that is how the explanation of this part goes on. And in genetic risk, from the image itself we can see those who already have a genetic risk of getting cardiovascular diseases, okay, they have to maintain a healthy lifestyle. Okay, if they want to prevent the same scenario for themselves, they have to maintain a healthy lifestyle. And even with a healthy lifestyle, uh, because of predisposing factors, they may have certain degree of hypertension, or they will be prone to hypertension. That small signs and symptoms will be present in them because of their genetic makeup. But if they maintain a healthy lifestyle, they will be far away from acquiring cardiovascular diseases, okay, to a certain extent. But the same person with a high genetic risk of cardiovascular diseases, along with that they have poor lifestyle, absolutely, that is for sure, they will acquire a atherosclerosis or any cardiovascular disease. Okay, that is how genetics is this entire image will show you that genetics is not the only factor that will decide if you will get a disease or not. It's also how your nutrition and your lifestyle plays out. Okay, both of these factors have to come together to make a forecast of your health. Okay, it's not just genetics and it is not just nutrition, both has to come together to see how you get a phenotype of certain gene expression with your lifestyle.